Welcome to Talent Show, the podcast where we put personality front and center in the hiring process. I'm your host, Lauren Glass Mullins, founder of Personality Pool, and around here, we believe people are more than bullet points on a resume. So whether you are hiring for a team or trying to join one, we've got tips, stories, and a whole lot of personality to help you stand out. Let's dive in. Michael, welcome to the Talent Show podcast. Do you feel excited? Like, how does it feel to be here?
It's been so long since I've done a podcast, I'm just giddy.
I knew you would be. That's why I had to have you on early because I knew that you would just be ready to rock.
Good. Love it.
Okay, I would have introduced you and made you sound like all amazing, but you didn't send me your bio, so I'm going to make you do it today. I want you to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Michael Odell, live in the Nashville, Tennessee area. I've been in the world of talent and recruiting technology since 2004. Spent about 14 years with Career Builder and a couple of years, 4.5 years at talent.com and some other job boards. And now I'm back in the industry working with Reelist. And Reelist is a super cool piece of technology. We have a platform that allows employers, whether it's a direct employer, a staffing firm, heck, even job boards or ad agencies, leverage social media like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and whatever else to do recruitment ads for your next best employee. So, and it keeps everybody on that platform too. So you can, if you're a quick service restaurant, you're looking for, 16-year-olds to come work at the fry bin, we can help you reach them on TikTok because that's where they go.
Totally. No, I love that. And I feel like Realist and Personality Pool are like siblings.
Very complimentary, actually. Yeah,
We just couldn't stay away from the
that's right.
cool video hiring platforms.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm the top. I'm the beginning. You're the back end, the front and the back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. It's fun and it's been cool to see like all the things that you've done. And obviously
Yeah.
you've been a huge mentor and connector for me. So excited for everything that you're going to share with everybody.
Yeah.
But I want to start with, because I know that you have to have them for all of your years in recruitment. What's your craziest hiring story?
I was thinking about this. The craziest ones I probably can't tell with a mixed audience here, but I was thinking about there was one that happened to my team. I was still a sales guy, an individual contributor, and we were growing a sales team, and we had 3 hires in a row whose background checks came back as like fraudulent in like 3 weeks. And it was funny because the first person, the background check came back and she, we asked her to leave, or the
Yeah,
manager did. And then the
yeah,
second
totally.
guy, his background check came back and they asked him to leave. And about that time, the third guy that we had hired like knocked on the door of the hiring manager. He's like, "Hey, I think I need to talk to you about something." He's like, "These background checks seem to be pretty good. You're going to find some stuff. So should I just go ahead and resign?" He's like, "Yeah, just go ahead and resign." This guy, he had lied about going to college. And so he's like, "Well, I'll just see you later." So yeah, so we lost 3 people because of really good background checks, like in a week and a half. So that
I
was
like
pretty.
that the third guy was like, should I just
Yeah, just
go
I volunteer as tribute. Yeah.
here? How do you have like, well, I was thinking, I'm like, gosh, how do you do a fraudulent background check? But you lie about all of your things, and then the
Yeah.
background check comes back and shows that you're lying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, one of them, I think 2 of them were employment and one of them was college. So, yeah.
Well, this is like the first nugget. If you are on the job hunt, just don't lie.
Don't lie. Do you know about social media? Do you know about the internet? Your whole life is there. So don't lie. We're going to find out.
We will find you.
Yes.
That's funny. And also, good background check company.
Yeah, whoever it was, they did great.
I love it. We've heard some crazy stuff already so far, and I haven't had to make too many hires on my own, but this is like kind of making me excited for the stories to come, but also a little scared. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so this is the first question that I want to ask. Because I think again, just because we're both in this like what I would consider to be more innovative hiring front, is one hiring practice that you not only wish companies would adopt, but you think is necessary to adopt with the incoming generation?
Yeah. So I don't know if this is like a policy, but more of a general idea. And it's just something it's been popped around in this industry for a long time is let's hire for potential. And I know that's really easy to say, but hard to do. These days, because of the internet, because of LinkedIn, because of resumes and how resumes get read by technology platforms, you have a much better chance of getting a job similar to the job you had before. So that makes
Hmm.
it really hard if you don't like your industry, or, hey, I want to sell this instead of that, or, I went to college to become an accountant, but I've always been in food service. So people just assume that I want to work in the restaurant industry. We need to do a better job of hiring for the person and training the skills, because there's a lot of people with great potential that if you just leaned in a little bit could be an amazing employee. And just because they don't check the box of you've done this for 3 years, well, they may have sold something else or worked in a similar industry. We got to find that potential and hire people for potential instead of just what their background says. There's this statement that you see in the world of investing, and it says something to the effect of previous returns are not indicative of future gains, or something like that.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's super true about people. It's like every time you look for a job, there's a new opportunity. And we as employers should be looking for people's potential, not what they used to do.
Totally. And I think like the running theme when I talk to people is that I think everybody's starting to get really tired of the way doing hiring the way always been done, just because that's always, the way it's been done. And I think AI is super scary to people when it comes and video. AI and video, like you either get it or you're scared of it or you find all these reasons not to implement it.
Yeah.
When it is what I would say, those are the two tools that do help you like hire more on potential. And with AI, I said this to somebody the other day. I'm like, you guys are so like, we have to review this resume. We have to do this. Well, Chat GPT is creating those resumes now. So you're fighting AI, implementing it into your own systems, but you've got to implement it strategically to highlight this potential because your candidates are going to use it on their end too.
Yep. Yeah, there's something on the radio last night, I think it was on NPR, talking about how in the world of recruitment now, your recruiters are using AI like crazy, but recruiters and employers are penalizing the job seeker for using AI on something like their resume or something like a cover letter. And I think when we just have AI fighting AI, nobody's actually doing recruiting. It's just AI talking to each other, right?
Yes.
So there's definitely a reckoning that needs to happen. But also the way that job seekers are looking for jobs is different. I'm 47 years old and I've got a 15-year-old who doesn't watch television. He watches YouTube, and it's almost always shorts or reels or, TikTok. That's where he spends his time. And so, as this 15-year-olds and even up to like 25-year-olds are looking for jobs, they're going and looking for jobs in different ways, but they're also applying in different ways. So we have to be ready for that as employers.
No, I think that's so true. And you shared something on LinkedIn the other day that was really cool, the Wendy's Snapchat ad. And yeah, I think it's just getting people more comfortable. And somebody like you, you've been around this industry for so long. You've seen all the changes. And I think seeing you as like a leader that's not afraid to embrace these new tools and sharing about which I mean you can share a little bit if you want about that article, but just basically how like companies like Wendy's are, meeting kids. I don't know. I just think it gives reassurance that like AI is not going to eliminate
No.
a humans like a
No, I think it
recruiter's
actually
job.
gives us more opportunities. That post you're talking about it actually had nothing to do with recruiting. It was about attracting your Gen Z and Gen Alpha consumers to go to Wendy's, and how they did this big, was it TikTok takeover or something?
Yeah.
And so a couple of points from that is it seems that in our world, recruitment technology, we're usually 5 years behind the consumer world. So as you look at something like that Wendy's is doing, well, in 5 years from now, that's going to be kind of starting to be the norm in our world. So if you're not using video, if you're not using social, if you're not using AI today in recruiting, that's okay, but get ready, because if you don't in 5 years, you're gonna go the way of the dinosaurs. AI doesn't have to be scary. Lean into it. Leverage AI to make your life easier and your job better. Leverage AI to make the job seeker experience with your brand and your company better. It's not a bad thing. It just takes some leaning into. You got to learn it and be open to learning these new things.
Yeah, and I agree because I talk to a lot of candidates. I know you talk to a lot of candidates that one question I like to ask them is like, how was the hiring experience at whatever company that you
Yeah.
work with? I can count on one hand, maybe barely, somebody saying like, oh, it was great. Like I felt seen. I felt, like I really got to show who I was. Like that is such, like if you can just find a way to set yourself apart there by adopting these tools, like the word of mouth and the loyalty you'll gain from your candidates is insane because nobody, I won't say nobody, but very few people say like, "Oh yeah, the interview and hiring experience was amazing."
That's right. That's right. Well, and let's take that one step further too. In many of these types of companies, if it's a retailer, if it's a restaurant, if it's even healthcare, your job seekers are even your customers. So if they have a bad job seeker experience, that reflects poorly on your B2B or B2C brand too. If you offend somebody or you don't call them back about your job at such and such restaurant, that person may get mad and not eat there too. So this goes further than just your conversations with somebody on the job. This is your brand, so it needs to be a good experience. Your tech stack needs to reflect who you're hiring to, right? If you're out there using a job board or social media or recruiters, your tech stack needs to reflect that too, to make sure that the people can get into the system, right? You don't need a 45-minute application if you're hiring somebody to work, say, in a warehouse or, to be a server at a restaurant. Let's ask them and put them in a process that makes sense for the job, not just a cookie cutter because this is what we use at corporate.
Yeah, and I think too, okay, almost every hiring website or page has like our core values and this is what we're looking for and this is what we do. And then you start to dig around and you like click on apply now and it looks like you went back to 19, I'll say 91. That was the year I was born. Not that I was looking for a job then.
Yeah, right.
But it's just like the most old school thing. You have this cool website and
Yep.
you've got great company culture and then it's like just a weird old application process. So Realist is kind of switching that up in a lot of ways. And I just want, like, how important do you think it is with you saying like your tech stack needs to match the kind of person you're hiring?
Yeah.
Like, how important is it to show that those values like go all the way through? And how does video, like, what would you say to people to make them less scared about implementing video in those processes?
Yeah, so a couple of good points there. If you have a cell phone, if you have a smartphone, you can do video. Also, it is platform dependent. Platforms tend to do better with this kind of video versus that kind of video. Specifically speaking, TikTok is all about authenticity. So, if you have a cell phone video, people are going to lean into and really like that more and engage with that more than they would if it was super polished. Your LinkedIn crowd maybe wants a little bit more polish on their video, but it shouldn't be something to stop you. Again, I talked about my 15-year-old. The younger the job seeker, the more prone they are to go video first for search, to find things out. And you'll even see this with Google. Google about a month, 2 months ago, have a new thing on their search result page for short form videos. Depending on what your search is, it'll say all news, images, videos, short videos.
Mhm.
So, short form is really coming into its own, and that many people are looking at it that Google has taken note too. So things like, jobs like retail or food service or, those that seem to look for a younger job seeker, you don't need a big long job description with a whole bunch of bullet points. What you really need to do is find somebody who has interest, sell them on the job, show them what the job is with a video, something quick and simple, tell them about how great it is, tell them about the things that this demographic likes, whether it's flexible hours, flexible pay, growth opportunities, and things like that. But put it out in video so they know what they're getting. They want to see what they're getting into. We see that when folks use video for recruiting, it cuts down the ghosting by about 60%. We see that the job seeker stays once they get hired longer because they know what they're getting into. There's much less turnover because they know before they even get there on day one what it's going to look like where they're working. Are they sitting? Are they standing? Are they in a group? Are they alone? Is it
Yeah.
arduous? Is it easy? Am I talking on the phone or am I carrying boxes up and downstairs?
Right.
That kind of thing helps shape their view of what job they're getting into and makes them a better candidate once they get to the job.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think, like, again, if this encourages anybody to know, like, it's not scary to implement these things, it's going to like reduce exactly what you said, like ghosting, turnover, better buy in. And on the personality pool side of things, we also see that if people will complete that video pre-screen, like they are invested in the job.
That's right.
And a lot of times, I mean, of course, everybody's worried about like DI issues with video and things like this. This is kind of like a hot
Right.
topic. We'll see how
Yeah.
far we go with this. But like, that's one of the pushback that we've gotten with video is like, well, this could be discriminatory or whatever. And I'm like, but that's not how the TikTok generation is seeing it. They're seeing it as like, this is my chance. You're showing me who you are.
The
You should
power
be.
to them. Yeah.
And then I'm going to be able to show you who I am beyond my resume and flex this creative muscle. And I think that's like a huge shift that we really need to see in hiring.
Yeah.
That it's like, listen, you're going to see this person face to face at some point anyway. So if you have, some kind of unconscious bias going on, that's a deeper issue that you have to work on.
Yep.
But that shouldn't penalize candidates from having the opportunity to showcase their soft skills.
Totally agree. And for so long, this probably haven't heard this argument in maybe 10 years, but for so long it was like, you can't put your picture on your resume because then people will be biased, whether that's against you or for you. But it was like, don't ever use that, a picture. We had some people that were hiring real estate agents years ago. And real estate agents like to put their picture on their resume. And so the resume database people are like, we can't have that. We can't, no pictures, no pictures, take it off. But now you have TikTok resumes, like literally a TikTok resume that you can build. And what do you think LinkedIn is? LinkedIn is first and foremost your profile picture, your name, and your title, right? And so if you're applying with LinkedIn or applying to jobs via LinkedIn, that's the first thing that the recruiter's going to see is your picture. So if we're going to do that, we might as well make it a video so that we can find out about who you are, what makes you tick, and do you have a personality? Do you have the something behind those eyes that make people want to engage with you? Are you going to be a good server because you can look people in the eye and say, what would you like to eat? Something like that. We got to lean into it because it is a changing world. Those job seekers want to interact with you as an employer differently. We got to do it. We got to kind of kill those old sacred cows and say, all right, we got to try something new. Now, yeah, could that lead to some problems? It could. We just have to be better as professionals to say, hey, we can't look at people based on their name or what color their skin is or if they're male or female. You got to look at the holistic person, and does this person fit the job? Does this person reflect our customer base? I think that's one of the big things too, is when people hire somebody who's completely different than their customer base. So
Yeah.
it takes all sorts. And so whether we use video or not, you got to be ready for it. You got to be flexible and change with the times, really.
Yeah. No, I love that. And if people won't listen to me, they should listen to you. You're
Because I'm old.
old and wise, Michael.
I
I'm
can't.
kidding.
I've been around. I've seen it all happen.
I'm kidding about the old part. Okay, I want to get your perspective on this, which is like basically everything we've been talking about, but how you see a lot of this with your son because you have a Gen Z or maybe he's
He's a
Gen
Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha in your home.
Yeah.
And so for this next wave of hiring, like how important and honestly crucial is it that you add personality, like a personality section basically in to your hiring process? Because it used to be 4-year degree or nothing. And now, what's the thing now?
Yeah. What is the thing now? So here's a thing that he needs to get a job. He wants to get his first job. He'll get his driver's license in September. And so this summer he wants to get a job. And so he applied to a couple of our local grocery stores. I asked him a couple days later, I was like, did you ever hear anything? He's like, no, the application process just said apply here and then go into the store. I said, okay, well, do you want to go in the store? He's like, well, I actually got an email today that said you haven't been to the store in like 5 days, so your application got deleted and you got to do it again. So, this is kind of a good example of where the process doesn't match the job. And of course, he's 15, he's just looking to be a bagger at a grocery store. And so, it's almost like that's a commodity that just keeps coming, right? That people turn 15 every year. But on a bigger thing, as you have adults or young adults applying for jobs, you need to tell them where they're at in the process. Communication's a big deal. These kids, these younger job seekers are used to that 360 conversation loop. For so long, employers have had these ATSs where your application just goes into a black hole
Yeah.
And you might get a call in 3 weeks from a recruiter there that says, "Hey, we want to talk to you," or you might not. And that was just part of the course for us. This younger generation wants that feedback. They want to engage. They want to engage with your brand. And they want your brand to engage with them. Which, if you have hundreds of people applying to your brand, how do you give each individual job seeker that individualized attention that they want? Well, you're not going to do it by staffing up with 200 recruiters. You got to start talking about automation. You got to start looking at AI just to keep your finger on the pulse of those job seekers so you don't lose them. So, the younger generation, what job are they going to take? They're going to take the job of the employer that engages with them. If you're a young person and you apply to jobs at like 3, 4, 5 different fast food restaurants, which job are you going to take? Probably the one of the manager who calls you back first and says, "Hey, we'd love to talk," right? They probably don't care what the restaurant is. They want you to engage with them. So leverage things like AI, leverage things like video, and then don't throw those people away either. You may have 3 people that apply for a job and you can only hire one. Well, those other 2 may be just as good, but just weren't the ones that called you back quickly. So make sure you keep those people around too. Build that bench, because just because they have a job today doesn't mean they're not going to need a job a year from now or 2 years from now. So don't burn that bridge. Keep those people warm, because they may want to re-engage with you later.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. And this is something that, again, has continued to come up is that I think for a long time, companies feel like they are doing the candidates a favor by like allowing you to apply here. And it's like
That's
this
right.
big, like hard thing. And it's like, no, there's a million options where these like soft skill
Yeah.
frontline workers can go. And
Yeah.
you, as a hiring team, need to communicate better with them, show interest in them, and give them those like touch points. It's not like the grocery store being like, "Oh, sorry, you didn't show up." Well, that's your son will go somewhere else. Like he'll
Yeah.
find a job. But this girl, that's just one example of the grocery store being almost like it's almost like hiring processes have become a bit pretentious,
Yeah.
and they need to go. It is a human to human interaction.
That's
I mean,
right.
you can tool it and AI it to death, and you should for, efficiency purposes. But at the end of the day, this human is deciding to come work for you, and you should treat them as like, hey, we're excited that out of all the places you could have gone, you came here to
Yeah.
try.
And you want that from that employee too, right? To treat your customers that way. I think one of the things recruitment oftentimes doesn't think about is the job seekers are your customers, right? And I mean that literally and figuratively. Like, you need to roll out the red carpet if you want somebody to work there. You don't want somebody to take a job because you're the third option, because how excited are they going to be to work there
Show
if they're
up.
the third
Yeah.
option? Make sure that you're like, "Hey, we like you. Come here, be part of us." You want those people to be excited on the first day, not just like, "Yeah, this is the one I got."
Yeah. And I think that's another good reason to implement that personality piece, because immediately, if you are able to review candidates' personality in some way, shape, or form, then you have connection points immediately. You can ask questions that give you a little insight about who they are. And yeah, like literally meet them on their level, show some interest. I think, turnover rates, I would love to, and we're tracking that now. Of course, we're new and we only have so much data, but it's like when you take a genuine interest in who they are as people, how long do they stay?
Yeah, longer. And I think there's a lot we could do with the tools we have today. You just said something that made me think about video. There's different types of video you can use. And what we see people doing now, video in interviewing, but video in the recruiting, but also video in the onboarding, right? We have the video to attract people to look at the job and apply to the job. You have video to interview somebody and get them into the job. But what about getting them excited about the first? So video for onboarding is a big thing for this younger generation too. They want to know what they're stepping into. So we have some customers that will do things like, once you apply to a job, you'll get a text message a day later that says, "Hey, by the way, check out this longer form video that talks about what it's like to work here." We want not just to be getting the job seeker excited about the job, but excited about the company too. Right. So here's what to expect. Here's what your job looks like. Here's what your benefits look like. What is it going to be like on your first day? What do I need to bring? Do I have any documents that need to be done beforehand? What does pay look like? all those types of things to really kind of take the questioning out, right? You can automate that and give that to the job seeker before they come in for an interview so that A, they're better prepared for the questions. B, it just makes it a better process. They already know what they're getting into. You don't have to waste, I don't want to say waste, but waste time on doing the repetitive stuff that you're going to do every single time. Put that in a video and get it out to somebody before they show up for their first day.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I love that because that energy of the candidate coming in is going to do nothing but have a positive impact on your team. So investing in getting them excited, learning about who they are. We've got this person, we've got them through this point, and it's like, okay, we think they're going to be a great cultural fit. Like, let's nurture that all the way through the process. So
That's
by the
right.
time they get here, that can reignite your not older, like age wise, but employees that have been here longer or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, you just can't, I think in the hiring process, like personality and culture is so overlooked.
Yeah.
But you have all these metrics that you want to improve. And it's like, if you just simply get them excited on the front end, do
Yeah.
these like cultural checks, these personnel, then that has long term,
Yeah.
effects.
But I think too, if somebody is using personality pool, right? They've already voted with their wallet to say personality and the human behind this job is important to us. Well, keep going with that as you bring the person in. If you're really leaning into their personality, well, show your team about the personality of this new person. Don't let that die once they come into your organization. Build it up. If you're hiring somebody for their personality, build that personality up.
Yeah. Personality, I mean, personality should be, it's mind-blowing to me that for all of these years, really the first time that you see somebody's personality is in that first interview, and you're so nervous and you're so stiff, it's not even like a true version of you. And so adding in all of these other little steps, just like the effects of that, I think
Yeah.
is huge. But also, to your point with Realist, is like it has to start at the beginning. Like, everybody hates a job board, but that's where you're finding your people. Find a way to make that more exciting. And exactly like you said, just like nurture it all the way through. And
Yeah.
it's just insane, like the shifts and the improvements and the time saved and the money saved. And we spend so much time at work. Like, it
Too
should
much time.
be an exciting, happy process. Like, I just think throughout it all. And I'm glad that there's
Absolutely agree.
a new wave of that happening. So we've touched on this a bit, but I just want to hear again from you. Where do you see hiring in 5 years? Like, what do you think is going to be the thing that, of course, you need to grab onto now, but like this change is coming, period.
Wow. I got to say that hiring has changed more in the past 5 years than 15 years before that I was in the industry. Things seem to be changing just faster now, generally, in technology. So, where will it be in 5 years? We're talking a lot about AI right now. And I think AI will be not just something we talk about, it's just going to be table stakes in 5 years, similar to how 10 years ago we talked about big data, big data, big data, big data. Well, big data, we don't talk about big data anymore because it's just part of what we do, right? All of our decisions are based on the data set we have. And I think that video and social and AI will be the next big thing. Just how job boards changed with job seekers as Google became more important. I think social is becoming more and more important with the younger job seekers, and you're going to see the rest of the job board world as well as the tech world moving that way. There's going to be a lot more video interviewing and automation. Think that AI and video are going to come together. I saw something yesterday that I think it was Google's AI platform can now actually have 4 different large language models:
Hmm.
video, text, audio, and image.
It's crazy.
So, in a couple years from now, you'll answer some questions and it'll go through an AI filter and be like, hey, Lauren is the person you want to hire. Here she is. And it's at that point that the recruiter will get involved to take the white glove service to you and say, hey, our software has found you and says you're the best person for this job. So, yeah, more automated. It's going to be quicker. Absolutely AI and a lot more social because that's how people are searching for information these days.
As an HR professional, should you be scared that AI is going to take your job? Like, what would
Whoa.
ever make that happen?
You don't have to be afraid of change if you constantly learn. The people that don't like change are the people who don't want change, right? Change is inevitable, so make sure you get ahead of it. And you don't have to take a Harvard class in AI. Just know what it does. Just know what it helps. There's so many little things that AI is doing for you today that you don't know it. Something as simple as helping with the grammar on email or making sure you're spelling the words right
Hmm.
or context of a sentence. These things are already there and it's just going to get more woven into your life. And it's okay. Things change, right? What was the old thing? Henry Ford said if he'd listened to his consumers, he would have given them a different colored buggy or, whatever it was, right? Cars came out and buggies went away, but society is still here. AI is okay. Don't worry about AI. It's not going to take over your world. It's actually going to open up more opportunities for us as professionals. Just be ready for it. Be ready to learn. Be open.
I love that. And I agree with that too. I think the only people in my mind that should be scared are the ones that are just like being resistant and like not allowing it to come in. And it doesn't have to take over everything, but it's just work literally smarter, not harder. We've never been in the world where we can work and hire smarter and not harder. And no, I completely agree with that take. So
Be ready because it's coming.
yeah, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming
It's
fast.
here.
So, yeah, it's literally here. It's exciting though. I think it's just reframing it into the excitement of what it is allowing us to do. I mean,
Yeah. That in my business, one of the things you're talking earlier about video is, people are hesitant. People don't know, like, how do I set up a shot? How do I make a video? AI is making that really easy. You can just type in a prompt and say, here's what I need it to do and say. We don't think it's quite ready for prime time today, April, whatever of 2025, but in 6 months' time, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. And it's going to open up a lot more opportunities for people in their professional and personal lives. So it's a good thing.
I agree. Well, Michael, thank you so much. This
My
has been so
pleasure.
fun.
Glad to be here.
I always love to chat with you, and I'm sure that we'll cross paths again and bring you on. And in 6 months, I can't wait to see all the things that Realist and you guys are accomplishing. So we'll do a follow up.
Very good. Looking forward.
Thank you for listening to Talent Show. Whether you're hiring or looking for a job or just here for a good time, we're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell anybody that this is your go-to hiring podcast. Also, don't forget that when it comes to hiring, personality isn't extra, it's everything. All right, see you next time.